This is Tim Harman. We are at the Who's Your Daddy Roundup at West Baden Springs Hotel in West Baden, Indiana. And we're here this afternoon with talented amp builder Jared DeLISLE, who's going to talk about a couple of his amps and a little bit of his history. Tavo Vega on the White Falcon center block guitar, and my old buddy Greg Shively on the White Falcon bass. Jared, tell us a little how you got into the amp building business.
Well, I began playing guitar when I was in the 6th or 7th grade. Worked on my first amp in the 1990s. I had a Fender Hot Rod Deluxe that had the channel switching resistors go out on me. So I tried to fix that, got shocked a few times, decided I didn't want to pursue my own amp repairs for a while. Then did some software development, IT stuff for a while, wrote some programs, and decided that I wanted to build something that would last. You know, I'd work on something for months at a time, typing code, and then it'd be obsolete as soon as I was done with it. So just one night on a whim in the kitchen with my wife, I said I'd like to build guitars for a living. She said okay, and to my shock, and that was the winter of 2007.
Really?
I formed the company on February 13th, 2008, and it's been ever since then, just focusing on amps.
So how did you jump from the Hot Rod Deluxe with its printed circuit board and that kind of componentry to building breadboarded?
Yeah. When I first started, I bought a bunch of 5-watt amps. I bought the Vox AC4, Gibson GA5, and a lot of the current production stuff. And I just kind of worked my way through it, each of the models, and designed the things that I didn't like out of my own design. So the first one that I came up with is called the Nickel Box. It's just a 5-watt single-ended amp, but it's in a cabinet this size. It's got a 12-inch speaker. It's got you know, bass, treble, tone stack, and a host of other options that you can get. So for me, the most practical approach was to do hand wiring amps on a small scale, to where I can offer people, you know, 20 different options on any given model.
So when you were figuring out what parts to leave out or what to change in the amps, was it a process of experimentation to figure out what part of the circuit did what to the tone?
Oh yeah. There was the first thing that I did was just move to a larger cabinet, and then because then I think you get a clearer picture of what you're actually dealing with as far as the circuitry is concerned. And then you know, those simple amps can have some great tones like a champ. You know, I mean, they're great recording amps, but guys are playing in their room and they want something that sounds like a real full sounding amplifier.
And it can be done with pretty low power.
Pretty low power. You get a nice deep low end response from a big cabinet and a 12-inch speaker. So those were the things that I focused on first.
And I understand that your amps are originally voiced with a Gretsch and Filtertrons.
Yes.
In mind, how did that come about?
Well, I mean, before I started building, I was a huge Gretsch freak. I had a very big vintage collection until I got married, then had to sell it to pay for the down payment on a house. And but I was still allowed to keep a few around. And TV Jones, classic Classics were one of my favorite pickups. So when I started working on amps, I wanted something that complemented the voice of his pickups.
Tell us about the amp we're listening to right now. It's the double nickel.
This is a double nickel. It's in a 3/4 inch pine cabinet. It has a birch baffle. This one's loaded with a Weber Silver Bell Alnico speaker. This particular amp has a couple of non-standard features. It has tube-driven spring reverb, which is it's a single tube design. That means that you got one half of the triode driving the tank, and you've got one half doing the recovery. And it's a very full sounding lush reverb with a smaller parts count, for me anyway. It also has tube tremolo that gets a nice swampy, slow tremolo feature. And it has a master volume. I kept the preamp on this one kind of clean. Since everything's built to customer spec, I can kind of do some voicing changes and some gain structure changes.
What amp was this? What was your starting point for this amp, the starting circuitry?
This was actually based on the nickel box that I did. All of the reverb circuit is mine.
Right.
It's an original design. The preamp in the original nickel box was mine design. It has a F86 fronted by a 12AX7. Tone stack is based on the old James design. You'll see those in like Ampegs and Orange amps, and there's quite a few others out there that use that same design. But I took the values and did the models and software to figure out where I wanted those frequency changes to be.
Now I have a Reverb Rocket from the mid-60s with a 12, physically a larger amp, and I hear some similarities with the tone, but this amp has way more low end.
It does, yeah.
I've had the Ampeg, the bass literally cranked all the way up.
Right.
Just to be acceptable. And the settings we were playing on there was the bass on 4, and I heard this amp earlier with the bass cranked up further than that, and this has got a lot of low end. It's a rich, full sounding amp.
It does. That was one of the features that I wanted to have in the amp. When you have the smaller low watt amps with the small cabinets and the anemic speakers,
right?
That's what you lose. And this one, and the larger amps, I'll actually use a different bass pot because you don't want the bass to come up too quick on the larger powered amps. So this one's actually got an audio taper pot, and then some of the other ones I'll use a linear taper to.
And as I was twisting the knobs, it seemed to me that there's pretty smooth and gradual response through the whole range, so it's all useful. It's not like you get to free and it gets unusable or vice versa.
You know what? That was another thing that I wanted to do. Like with vintage amps, they weren't really designed to be cranked all the way up, and so what I did was design an amp, like you said, that I wanted it to sound good with everything, towards its maximum level, so everything stayed usable, and you keep the frequency range where you want it, and you keep the range of the controls within a range that it's not gonna sound.
And then when you see a master volume amp, you think, okay, crank the input gain way up and have a crunchy amp at a lower volume. Is that flavor here, or do they work more interactively just to get a basic tone?
It can. Like I said, this preamp is kind of clean, just because this was a customer's amp that he swapped in for a larger powered amp. So he wanted kind of a clean preamp, so I reduced the gain in the front end. But yeah, I mean, you can roll the master back, and if you want me to do some gain in the front. I don't know what Tavo's got headed there. this one doesn't get as crunchy as some of the other
No,
designs,
you-
just because it was, you know, for a particular customer. But yeah, you can, and
That would keep a lot of guys out of trouble.
yes, it would. But you can get a little bit of breakup, and this one's actually got a foot switchable boost on the underside. I didn't bring the boost.
Oh, I see.
But it's, you know, you can configure them out.
It's a preamp boost.
Yeah, yeah. So you can do. I think there's maybe 20 different options that I offer, from reverb, tremolo, effects loop, you know, variable, linear power control.
So this is a 10-watt amp, you said.
10-watt amp.
And
Yeah.
you build amps up to.
Whatever anybody would want, really.
Yeah.
But the most practical, I think, is probably about 35 or 40 watts for what a lot of guys are using.
Now, I know you build a lot of custom amps, and you build for people all over the world, and people rave about it. Everybody's happy. Tell me how you talk to a customer about what they want. I'm sure some guys come to you and they know what tubes they want in the preamp, or they think they know, and they know what they want in the power amp. And
Right.
Tell you what, other guys are going to come and talk tone talk.
Right,
They're
right.
going to say they want it to sound brown or green. So how do you translate what people are telling you?
It's kind of a delicate, you know, you got to work both sides of it. You can't talk too technical to some people.
Yeah.
And then the analogy that I like is, if you've ever seen Days of Thunder with Tom Cruise and who was the other guy? One James Caan, was it?
Mary Poppins.
But Tom Cruise would be talking you know, it feels like this, and you know, he'd be translating to his tech what he wanted,
Right.
changes made in the car. So it's kind of like that relationship. You've got to know both languages,
Right.
to determine how to voice the amp to meet a particular person's needs. And you know, when somebody asks me about a particular option, and I don't think it's really what they
Think it is.
would want, I would say, you know, you probably don't need to spend the money on that. So that's one of the nice things about this, you know, modular, you know, a la carte design, is that, you know, if you don't want tremolo, you don't have to pay for tremolo. So we kind of go through the style of music, you know, whether they want it clean-ish, you know,
Right.
or you know what their goals are as far as the use of the amp, whether they're playing out live, whether they're just recording, stuff like that, and then you kind of go through the
So
checklist.
somebody comes to you for an amp, and they've no doubt gone to the website, they've read the descriptions, and they know you've got a good reputation, people like your amps. They give you the ideas, and you come up with, this is what I think you want. Don't want to get you into trouble and make more work for you. But does it happen that you build an amp and you send it to a guy, and, you know, at first, of course, he's very complimentary, or most people, for some people who want to be abrasive and
Yeah.
find trouble. But most people are going to love it right off the bat. 3 weeks later, does anybody call back and say, you know, I wonder if it could do this, could it do that? Do you go through iterations of design?
Not typically. I offer a 7-day return policy. I mean, even on the custom stuff that I build, if it's,
Right.
you know, somebody wants pink paisley with a purple grill cloth, and I build it and they don't like it, they've got 7 days to send it back. But nobody ever has. So I've been fortunate in that regard, because
I should be so lucky.
But yeah, usually it's pretty straightforward. You know, you try and hit all the high points at the beginning to avoid anything in the back end. It's kind of, you know.
Well, as I listen to this one, it would suit me to a T, just as it is. It's great in a, you know, fine as a so-called practice amp, or you know, a basement amp that many of us spend a lot of time playing through. It would also do, you know, a room this size easily, and a larger room, and obviously it could be mic'd for any purpose. So I'm very impressed.
If you got any Gretsch guitars you want to trade, I saw that white country club downstairs.
Yeah, maybe. Probably not that.
I could throw in another one.
And I love the Tolex.
Yeah, this is actually the old box style Fawn Tolex. It was unavailable for quite some time, and within the last few years it's been made available again. But
You'll do any covering and any grill calls.
yeah, and you get choice of any of that kind of stuff if it's made, and I can source it all.
But most of the amps are square in shape. I mean, they're rectilinear. You don't make round amps or conical shape.
Well, did you see the amp I did for the Squirrel Nut Zippers?
I did.
That one was a little different. It had 5-inch radius corners. It was a
Yeah.
215 with an old Philco mahogany front, so yeah.
And I'm trying to get this picture. You're in Zionsville, Indiana, and you've got a workshop behind the house. And
No, it's in a little industrial park, but I rent a small space. My family owns a big, it's like a 5,000 square foot building, and I've got my little corner of it where I get to do the guitar stuff.
And you do the woodworking and
Yeah,
you do
everything.
the soldering and
Yep, I made,
Good shoe.
I make the logos, I make the control panels.
yeah.
I build the cabinets from pine and birch. I cover them. I put the baffles on. I design the circuits, so it's just a one-man
Yeah.
wrecking crew over there.
Sweet.
Yeah.
You guys got something else to play?
Play something with some true love.
Yeah, something swampy.